if you've done a lot of work on Africa, you would not cease from feeling this cynicism that when the rest of the world deals with Africa, they do not deal with Africans as though they are human beings living in the land that God created for them. Thank you for joining me on Esteemed Television, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Augustine Ambe. I have a show here that I want to do today, and it's a show that is really a continuation of another show that we've done. Late last month, late February 2021, Human Rights Watch did a story or reported on a story about an invasion that took place March 1 of 2020. They reported that, so they reported it almost a year after. And in their report, they talked about an incident where the military of La République du Cameroon went into Ambazonia in a village called Ebam and raped 20 women, arrested 35 people, killed one, tortured the rest, looted the place. And we reported on that story. I think we reported on this channel. If you take a look, you will see that. We reported on this story on the 28th. I think it's the 28th of February. And on March 2nd, the American Embassy also put out a piece on this same story. And I want to read what the American Embassy said. I'm talking about the American Embassy in Yaoundé, La République du Cameroon. U.S. Embassy, Yaoundé, Cameroon. Press release. U.S. deeply disturbed by reports of abuse in Ebam. Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. The United States is deeply disturbed to learn of reports of a military raid in Ebam, Southwest region, on March 1 of last year that resulted in violence against civilians. We condemn all violence in which civilians are targeted. We call for an immediate investigation into the alleged incident and for perpetrators to be held accountable. That this attack, if found to be true, could go unacknowledged for a year speaks to the important role civil society and media organizations play in helping governments meet their obligations to their people. Okay, so that's the release that the American Embassy in Yaoundé, La République du Cameroon, put out. And when I read this this press release, I was intrigued. I'm not going to be. I'll be upfront. I was intrigued, and so what I did was I picked up my phone and I called Terence Bangawakai. He's one of our analysts on Esteemed Television, and I just wanted to hear what he thinks without having a discussion with him about this. I just wanted to hear what his take is. That was done earlier, and I'll just play it, and then, I'll come back and we can continue the conversation if there's more to be talked after that interview.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
All right, so I'm going to give you a little interview about this this article from the American Embassy in Yaoundé, Cameroon. So what do you think about it?
I'm not prepared for an interview, but
Well, you want to think about it before, and then I call.
no, I don't have to think about it. I think it's tragic, if you want to put it that way. It's absolutely tragic because you have the former ambassador, Ambassador Bellerin, had stated unequivocally that the Cameroon military was guilty, and that's the choice of the word that he used, of targeting civilians. Reuters carried the story, and for the American embassy today to put out a statement days after, the Human Rights Watch report, providing conditionality to what Human Rights Watch was reporting, that if it occurs, it's absolutely tragic. So that's, what else is there to say?
Wow.
It means, we now know that the so-called leading Western nation, their representatives in Yaoundé, could care less about the lives of the civilians being killed. They could care less about mass rape, and this is one of probably many other incidents which are going on unreported. So we expect, I guess, going forward, the people of who are being victimized by their friends in Yaoundé, should expect nothing from the American, from that embassy and the staff, the current staff that runs the embassy in Yaoundé.
So you're seeing a difference between the leadership in that embassy right now and the Bellarine embassy?
It's night and day, man. It's absolutely night and day. And there's no question.
Apart from this incident, is there, they could be doing great stuff, but it's just this incident that they sound the way they did. Throwing nuance in a situation that should have no nuance, like you just pointed out.
What great stuff could they be doing? I don't know of any great stuff they could be doing.
Okay.
They've put out a press release that speaks for itself. They've put out a press release that tells the reader that, I guess, black lives do not matter in the jungle of Africa, so.
I'm going to ask you a question which I found it really curious that they did not blame the government of La République du Cameroon. They blame the media and civil society for not telling the government. What did you think about that?
We're dealing with people at the embassy who have a difficulty. They have difficulty really accepting the Africans in that part of the world as human beings. Because this is what I think, and I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know where it's coming from. It's something. Because that's not the way you react. You do not put a statement like that where mass rape has been carried out, where I think the Human Rights Watch is a credible organization. I know they've been very weak in terms of condemning the atrocities that the Cameroon government has been carrying out, like many of these other so-called international human rights organizations. For some reason, as you mentioned once, they've allowed Biya so much latitude to do whatever the man pleases. I guess they view Biya as an instrument of the French state. So they are allowing the French state to just do to these Africans as they please. I guess we haven't reached the level of what the French achieved in Rwanda for them to be any outcry. It is baffling. The statement is baffling.
Yeah, did you see the embassy actually going out of its way, avoiding to blame the Cameroon government? After all, these were Cameroon government agents. Do you see that it went out of its way? Because I found it really, it stood out to me immediately when I read it, that human rights reports that this has happened, and we're talking after Gabu, after Kumba, after Matu, after all the other events, Pinyin and Bali and all of those. This is, I mean, we're into the third year of the government of Cameroon doing this kind of thing to civilians, and this embassy went out of its way to avoid blaming the government whose troops go and do these things, and blamed it on the media and civil society for not reporting it to the government. Does the government control the place or not? Hello?
Yeah, I'm speechless. You know, it got me at a time when I'm completely speechless by this conduct of the American embassy in Yaoundé. They've taken sides. Our embassy in Yaoundé has taken sides to side with, I suppose, the French state and their agent Paul Biya. So we have to make the American public understand that this is what is happening back there. We have to work very hard.
Well, you know, we talked about Peter Ballerin's leadership at the embassy. Who is the ambassador? Who is the American ambassador in that embassy now?
I'm not sure if they have an ambassador there at the moment. I know they have a head of mission, who I suppose carries, is the highest ranking diplomat there, but I don't know if they have to check on that. I don't think they've appointed Mr. Ballerin's replacement.
Okay, so who is leading that mission there now?
The head of mission is a lady called Miss Fitzpatrick, Vernal Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, so Americans, let me ask you this. Remember in 1968 when the CIA came out with a report about what the French what La République du Cameroun is doing to the English-speaking population in that country. Do you think the Americans don't have their own independent intelligence in the territory right now to be reporting these things to them directly? Is that a possibility?
They do. The report came out in 1986. I think it was dated in 1986.
Okay.
Which basically predicted what is happening right now. The report stated that if the centralization and the diminution of the space for Anglophones continue, they may see no other choice but to resort to armed rebellion. So that is what has happened. But this armed rebellion really did not come about because our people felt squeezed. They did feel squeezed. They did attempt to dialogue, to table their grievances, and the war was declared upon them. After their leadership had been arrested, those that were lucky enough to find their way out on exile made their way out, and basically the leadership back home, within the space where they were living as human beings, the leadership of the organization was decapitated, and after they did that, they had no interlocutors to talk with. They came with their big guns. They have the full-throated support of France everywhere, at every institution, at every level. They have now the support of the American embassy in Yaoundé, who insults and spits on the graves of these people who are being killed, of these women and girls who are being raped systematically, day in and day out. How many rapes are committed without So Pierre is very comfortable with the current leadership at the embassy in Yaoundé. I think they probably enjoy breakfasts of croissants and fresh pineapple juices every morning, and toast at night, their champagne, their French wines, and let the niggas kill each other.
I just have one more question for you. and I think I'm more asking you to speculate. Why would civilians, women, and why would they be targeted? Why are they so targeted? Can you speculate?
This is how this regime was consolidated in the 1950s and 60s. This is the playbook that they used against the Cameroonese nationalists. Villages were burned, people's heads were chopped off and put in the market square, women were raped in front of their husbands, some of the girls were raped in front of their parents. So this worked for them. That is how they consolidated this regime and established themselves with an international identity as a government of, I guess, the Federal Republic of Cameroon, the United Republic of Cameroon, and now the Republic of Cameroon. They are managed by a white European power, France. And I think at the end of the day, anything that happens in Cameroon is viewed as happening in a French département, in a French province, in a French district. And how dare you go against your ally when he carries out something within his domestic realm? That's the conventional wisdom. And that's why France can go around and boast that, they act as a protection against PR from any kind of diplomatic injury that may come his way based on his actions.
I'm still about assigning responsibility. So from what you just telling me, it looks like we should assign the blame on the French.
Yes, that goes without saying.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, after I hung up with Terence, I called him back, and there were parts of this report that I wanted to hear him address them more specifically. So here's the second part of that report, of that interview.
I was going to read the quote from that CIA report. I just brought it up. So this Directorate of Intelligence report published on the 3rd of February 1986 read, and I'll try to quote it: the Anglophones, who constitute some 20% of the population of nearly 10 million, fear their gradual assimilation into the dominant Francophone community, according to U.S. Embassy reporting. Although they currently lack the leadership and unity to effectively challenge Biya's rule, we believe the Anglophone minority is a potential time bomb, and should the central government fail to respect their cultural and linguistic traditions, the 2 million strong community may view armed confrontation as their only alternative. Anyway, what you've done has made the rounds.
Yes.
Why is it taking them till today to put out a statement?
I don't know.
Were they contemplating not to put out a statement?
They were probably contemplating not to. They were probably contemplating not to. Yes. And I think maybe a lot of people have actually seen it now, and they're like, okay, you have to say something about this. And then they come and make a lame statement like that, blaming journalists and civil society. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to ask you this, and it's part of the interview. They talk about civil society and journalists reporting. Are journalists even free in Cameroon to report fairly? Are they safe?
Well, they know they are not safe. They know they are not. I mean, the press release is an absolute disaster. It's an absolute disaster.
What happened to Wazizi? Do you explain that?
Nobody knows. The man has been disappeared. They cannot even find his body. Why is it that they cannot give his body for the family to give him to bury the man.
No, but the Cameroon...
What happened to his body?
Yeah, the Cameroon government or the Cameroon military has admitted that he died in prison. So we know that he was dead. They have reported that. I think it's more what you're saying that hasn't happened. They haven't handed the body yet to the... They probably dispose of the body in a way that nothing can be... that nothing is available to give anybody because they were going to hide it. Because they started by denying it. And this... Go ahead, please.
Well, the American embassy may think that this will be resurrected to come and report on that, on mass rape that they are questioning. I mean, the statement is an absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
Tragic disgrace.
Yes, it was better they say nothing because it was better they say nothing.
They should have just kept quiet.
Yes.
They should have just kept quiet.
Because this is more a statement about their leanings, like you said, than a statement about that situation. That's more what this statement conveys.
Are those the values that they want the victims of this crime to think? I won't impute those words on that statement to the general worldview of the American people. I think the American people are better than that statement that their embassy in Yaoundé is sending out.
Of course.
They're better than that. And it's an absolute disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. I think they are, I think they really think they inhabit Conrad's what was Conrad's book? The dark,
the Heart of Darkness.
The Heart of Darkness, yeah. I think they've imbued all of these sensibilities and the stereotypes embedded in that narrative.
Yeah, this is a different time, though. This is a different time, and these things. The American embassy really should be embarrassed by this statement. The American people, maybe the American embassy definitely is not, but the American people should be embarrassed because whenever the American people have been given an opportunity, they would override vetoes that abolish apartheid in South Africa. You know what I'm saying?
Well, American citizens need to get involved a little bit more. I think it's part of the responsibility of those who are doing advocacy work on behalf of these people who are being subjected to these atrocities. To bring in as much as possible of the American citizenship to alert them. So.
Just another quick question. Would you say this reflects the Biden administration's take on Africa, this statement from the embassy?
No, I wouldn't say that. But, I think, I hope not. They effectively, it leaves that open for interpretation that this is what the new administration this may be their approach. So that is the voice of the American administration. That's the diplomatic representative of the United States making a statement. So I think the Biden administration needs to clarify their position on that.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Talk later.
Okay. Bye.
I really don't know what else I can add to our discussion, but there's definitely a lot to be desired. There's a lot to be desired by those who we look up to for leadership. And if you've done a lot of work on Africa, you would not cease from feeling this cynicism that when the rest of the world deals with Africa, they do not deal with Africans as though they are human beings living in the land that God created for them. There just isn't that. And as time has gone on, and maybe confidence in the ownership of Africa and its people, it's more solid now. You start hearing reports like this, and I cannot think about what we have discussed here without thinking about this.
Sub-Saharan Africa has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. Okay? And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow Sub-Saharan Africa to escape that. Okay, we do everything to keep Sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. Okay, but this is the opposition that they're fighting. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big price to pay. I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay, so this is what it's fundamentally about.